Hello, this is the full interview with Bjørn Lynne from Team 17. He composed the music for Worms. This interview was conducted in July 2024 for my recent video, The Making of Worms, which is linked below. A link to Bjørn's YouTube channel is also below if you'd like to see what he's been up to, as well as his personal website linnemusic.com and his stock music site shockwavesound.com. As usual, I've cut off some chit chat before the interview, so we'll jump right in. And I do realise it's been a long time, so whatever you can remember would be great, but no pressure.
Yeah, I mean, even if we're going to talk about Worms, I mean, I made that stuff 29 years ago. Talking about Worms, it was 1995. Probably just over 29 years now, because I think I worked on that quite early in the year, like in the spring of 1995. And if you're going to talk about stuff years prior to that, I mean, we're going into the age of dinosaurs.
Yeah,
I can't remember much.
That's okay. You know, whatever you, like I said, whatever you can remember is great. But I suppose you know, going right back, you know, just interested in how you got into making music in the first place, and then obviously you were kind of on the Amiga demo scene prior to doing games, I believe. Is that right? So how did you
Exactly,
kind of how did kind of making music transition into making music on, you know, on Amigas and what have you?
I guess I just when the Amiga computer came out, I somehow just realized that this was a wonderful machine for making music. It had the 4 channels of 8-bit sampled audio. You could do stuff with it that was sounded at the time. That was amazing. And I just liked to play around with it, to make music and see what I can get out of it. Other people started showing up and told me it sounded good. So yeah, I just liked doing it. I spent a lot of time doing it, and some of it came out all right.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how did the demo? What was you were called Dr. Awesome, was it?
Yeah, Dr. Awesome. Yeah,
that's it. Nice.
This nickname came about on a drunken night out of on the town. We all made doctors' names. A few other guys in my demo group called themselves Doctor such and such, and I just went with Dr. Awesome. I just thought it sounded cool.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
There's no other story or explanation to that. It's just something I thought sounded a bit cheeky, sounded a bit cool. I went with it. So I spelled it wrong for the first couple of years.
Oh, did you?
Awesome without the E after the W. So if you see some really super old Crusaders productions, you will see Dr. Awesome, but no E after the W.
Wow.
But I realized after maybe a year or two, I realized, oh shit, hang on, there should be an E here. And I started spelling it correctly.
Amazing.
So that's just a funny little story about that.
So how did that then trickle into doing video game soundtracks?
You know, in the Amiga demo scene, we used to send our stuff around to people in other countries on floppy disks. And some of my stuff just made their way through to some people who were developing games. They heard my music, they heard about me. I used to have my mom's landline telephone number written in a little scroll text that would roll by under the demos.
Nice.
So some people from America and from Germany and from the UK would call my mom on her landline in Norway and ask to speak with Dr. Awesome.
Amazing.
It's quite funny, actually. My mother doesn't speak very much English, but she understood when somebody was asking for me. She came looking for me. Bjørn, there's somebody on the phone. I don't know what they're saying. It must be for you.
Yeah.
And so I would sit there, take phone calls, and speak with the game developers from different countries, and ended up doing the music for a few games back then. This was early 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you remember the first one?
I remember some of the very first ones I made. There was a game called Brat. I
Oh,
wonder if it would. They're probably my first paid one.
I
Yeah, it was
quite I quite
Brat.
like the music on that one actually.
Oh, thank you. That was.
Yeah.
I think that was my very first game that I did the music to. Um, I did something called Fantastic Voyage, a game.
Oh yeah.
American developer, Fantastic Voyage, for a German company. I don't remember exactly the names, but I did some music for some. It was like Amiga versions of some board games,
Hmm.
puzzle games, and board games. I'm sorry, I can't remember the names
No, that's okay.
at the moment.
So then Team 17. So how did that come about working for Team 17?
I would say more or less pretty much the same process. Martin from Team 17 called me, and I think already before he called me and asked me to move over there and work there, I had done a few little bits and pieces for them as a freelancer in the way that I described earlier. I
Mm.
made the music at home in Norway and sent them the Amiga files. But they needed a full-time music composer and audio guy in '95, and Martin Brown called me and basically wondered if I would be interested. And at the time, I had only just started another job, kind of boring stuff with just some IT support within a big corporation here in Norway. So, and that job didn't really interest me much. So, yeah, I jumped at the chance and packed up my belongings, sold my car, sold my most of my gear, and just moved over to England to Wakefield.
Wow.
Yeah,
So how old were you at this point?
I was about 25.
Wow, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
amazing. Were you a Team 17
A
fan?
little more than 25, maybe more like 28. That
Okay.
must have been like 28. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So were you a fan of their games, like already, Team
Oh,
17?
absolutely. Yeah. I was, I and all my friends were huge fans of Team 17. We always knew that when there was some new game coming out from Team 17, it would be cutting edge. It would be the best Amiga games. So we were already huge Team 17 software fans. And when I told my mates that I was moving over to England to start work for Team 17, they thought I was just pulling a joke because it sounded so unreal.
Yeah,
But no, I had to convince them. No, really, it's true. Yeah. Sure.
that's awesome.
But yeah, no, that was fantastic.
So presumably that was you did a few soundtracks before 95, right?
I did some bits and pieces before 1995. What was it? I can't remember exactly what it was.
I
Some
think
little,
uh, I think
yeah.
I had written down for them that you'd done Project X, although maybe just one
Yeah,
track, maybe.
I think I contributed to Project X, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And Quack I've got,
Oh
and
yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah. Now I remember that one. Yeah, that's
and
right. Yeah,
and then Alien Breed 3D. I think they were the ones prior to Worms, I think. Yeah,
yeah. Okay, see,
that's
you
cool.
you remember more of this stuff than I do.
It's more the internet remembering it more than me, but yeah.
All right. Yeah. All
Uh,
right. Cool.
so okay, so you're composing at home in Norway on Amiga, and then you go to Team 17. So
Yeah.
what hardware were you using at home? Did that hardware change then when you went to Team 17?
It changed gradually, but not suddenly. I mean, I brought some stuff over with me from Norway, and I should add that even before I moved to England, I was also making some music that wasn't just the Amiga. I had my setup with keyboards and a few rack mounts in units and a mixing desk and things like that. I was um, I was also making my own music just for myself, just to release on albums and tapes and stuff. that wasn't really directly connected to games or Amiga. But I was into electronic music, ambient music, and things like that already before '95. So I had some synth gear that I took with me. So including a keyboard, master keyboard that I would play on. So when I set up at the Team 17 office, I started with my own gear, and then bit by bit, I asked the Team 17 management, Martin Brown, and I forgot the name of the other guys in the management back then, but bit by bit, I started asking them for a little bit of money to buy some gear, and I had to make my arguments for why I needed this and that. And yeah, they were good. They were good to me. If I could reasonably argue why I needed a piece of gear, they would fork out the cash to buy it. So yeah, it was good. Yeah, I had my own. It was like kind of a large office in the corner of a building over at Team 17. I had plenty of space for setting up gear and stuff. So yeah, that was great.
Nice. So do you remember first seeing Worms, or?
I do remember first seeing it. I can't remember exactly which room or exactly who showed it to me. It probably would have been Martin Brown, who was my boss and friend at the time. And he showed me this game, and I just had to say that I agreed with everyone else. It was a great fun. It was a really nice, cool game. Quirky, humorous, and really playable.
So how does it work if, let's say Martin shows you the game, do they give you like a remit roughly for the score, like what they want, or do they just kind of go with whatever you think the vibe should be, or?
I don't remember exactly that process. I think we just sat down and talked about it, and we kind of agreed that we needed one memorable sort of main theme, and we needed some not too obtrusive background music for in-game play. And we just went with that. So I think we agreed that I should make one like proper tune that was memorable and catchy. And then I should make a bunch of ambient music suitable for the different types of landscapes. Like we had hell, space, mechanical stuff. There was different graphics packages and music for each of those. And we just kind of agreed that that music should be quite ambient, low key, stay in the background, not be too much in your face, because people would just switch it off, right?
Okay, so that minimalist approach was like a really conscious decision by you guys to.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't remember exactly if it was me or somebody else who first said that, but I think we just we talked about it and we just decided to do it like that. Yeah,
I think it really works for the game, that kind of approach, I think.
Okay, yeah. I think it worked. Yeah, thanks.
So that was quite different from your demo scene stuff, presumably. But I mean, you said you're making other music, electronic music. Had you done that kind of thing before, that style?
No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say that I had made that kind of like low-key, unobtrusive music before. This is my first outing in that direction, I have to say. I think before that, my goal with the music was always to make the music as interesting as possible. Always give the listener something to notice and catch and maybe be a little surprised by or something like that. So, no, this is my first outing into that kind of music that's just there to provide an atmosphere, but without really being noticed.
Was that a challenge?
I guess it was. I don't remember it. I don't remember finding it difficult. Yeah. Because for me, it's just for me, I don't know. For me, it's not a difficult thing to do. It's kind of easy.
Because I know that I think Worms 2, they kind of went in a different direction with the music, but then Worms Armageddon it kind of went back to and like Worms Armageddon, I think you really kind of had perfected that background style. It's really excellent. But Worms 2, I think they went for a more kind of lively music.
I think again, this was just a conversation we had in-house. Was that okay? This is Worms 2 now. Let's not just repeat everything, and let's not do everything exactly the same. Let's try a different approach. We want people to feel and know that this is a new game, not just trying to resell the same old game. So that was a conscious decision to make the tracks a little bit more upbeat, more grooves, more little bit more funky in some way or something like that for Worms 2. That's correct. Yeah, we did that.
Was it different because as well it was PC and did the Amiga, the first one, did it actually have background music on the floppies? I can't remember if that version did or if it was just.
I think it did. Yeah,
oh, it did.
I must have done. I definitely remember making Amiga mod files with that ambient music. So I think it must have done. Yeah.
So what about sound? Did you do sound effects and everything as well? Like you doing all the sound? Yeah.
Yeah. And I made the sound effects. I got permission from management to buy a huge compact disc-based library of sound effects with like 100 CDs or something, and a booklet like this with this like an alphabetical listing of keywords and stuff. So I would literally look up sound effects on paper and then find them on the correct disc, find the correct track. And even each track would have like maybe 20 or 30 sounds. I was sound number 18 on track number 74 on the disc number 28. There I would find the sound, and I would mix and match a little bit, blend them a little bit, edit them, maybe use the attack part from one sound and the tail from a different sound, pitch change them a little bit, and do things like that. I would do that. Yeah.
So was that you choosing? It was basically down to you to choose the sound effects and play. Yeah.
But we together I put some sounds into the game. We tried and tested it a bit. Sometimes the sound would sort of come out a little bit different than I had imagined when you actually played the game. I would go back and change it a little bit and then update a little bit for the next version.
And presumably you were doing sound for the Chris's cutscenes for the CD versions.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah. Was that fun doing that? Because that was quite new, the 3D kind of thing at the time.
It was fun, but like everything else, it gets routine when you have to do a lot of it. When you're just spending day after day after day after day doing it. It was fun, but also kind of boring after a while. I'm sure you see what I mean. Even the guys putting sound effects to Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
You've been doing that 5 days a week for 10 years.
Well, once it's a job, it's a job, isn't it? So,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know a lot of the team kind of contributed voices to the game. So how were the voices actually recorded and then like processed and put into the game? Do you remember any of that?
It's very, very simple, very straightforward. They were recorded in my corner office in Team 17 with my just microphone that we had there. Just a regular professional microphone, if I remember correctly. It was an AKG C1000 condenser microphone that we had. So good microphone. But again, the actual technical sound quality wasn't the key. The key was the delivery, right? And the timing. And Andy Davidson, who was the creator of the game, he was in my corner office, and we talked a little bit about the voices, because he had already experimented at home with using his own voice in a kind of falsetto, watch this kind of sound, and he would speed up that. So he already kind of had a little recipe for what would work for that. And of course he was right. So that was a great approach. very simple, not complicated. In order to make it sound like correct speed after it was pitched up, we would just speak slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than saying, watch this, we would say, watch this. And then you speed that up by five semitones. You get something that's higher pitched and then the correct length, right?
Wow.
That's how we did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was Andy Davidson himself, the original game creator. He delivered the voices for the default Worms voice set. And together with him, Martin, and Chris Blythe, who I think you already spoke with, and the various other people at the Team 17 office, we just talked about it, and so different people had a few different ideas of fun sound sets that we could do, and we would pitch up everything, right? So it was Chris voiced something he called the Angry Scott. We had various different characters, and my girlfriend at the time, who is also Norwegian, she's called Hannah. She's my wife now and has been ever since. She had a funny thing that she could do a pretty good Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. So she voiced a sound set for the Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's, I don't know if it's still out there. It must be still. Everything is still out there somewhere.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. So when it came to the later versions of Worms, we were kind of constantly on the lookout for people who could do certain characters in a funny way. Somebody knew somebody who did a great Elvis or something. Yeah, just ideas like that came up, and yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it. And we recorded everything at my place, and I had the same process with everything. I named the files such and such. I pitched them up such and such. Recorded in the same way. So yeah, it's good fun. Yeah,
sounds it.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of ports for Worms.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more than 99% of games at the time. So was that just like you had the music and you just using the same music, or do you ever have to kind of change the music for certain systems?
Yeah, I can't remember too much detail about that, but I do remember having to kind of recreate the music in various different formats, platforms, and I had to do a MIDI version, general MIDI version. I had to do a mod version. To resample I don't remember exactly, but yeah, there were a lot of different platforms at that time, and they each had their own sound chips, right? And each had their own challenges. So yes, I do remember having to kind of port or even recreate the music in different formats. Yeah. Part of the job back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you kind of, I know you said you like everybody else there, you liked Worms and thought it was fun, but did you kind of foresee any of this lasting success, that people still talking almost 30 years later about the game?
At the time, I had no concept of that. It didn't even occur to me. I'm not sure it did for anybody else. I have to say, I don't really follow the game scene that much anymore.
Yeah.
I don't follow the Amiga scene that much anymore. It's been 30 years ago, and sometimes I'm asked to answer interviews or for somebody to asking me this and that or show up for interviews like I'm doing with you now. And I'm not always keen to do it because part of me feels like, come on, guys, it's 30 years.
Yeah.
It's a risk already, move on. But yeah, other times I feel, all right, it's not too bad. Maybe it's fun to remember the good old days sometimes. But I don't go looking for Amiga stuff or Worms stuff or retro video game stuff online. I have other interests and other things that I do in my life now.
Yeah, I mean that's great. Yeah. I mean, I understand that, you probably over the years people want to talk about certain things constantly, and it kind of you get to the point where you're like, I'm done with that. But also
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
a lot of this stuff is it's important to preserve the history, and it's good that we put it out there, and that people can kind of learn about all this stuff before, one day no one will remember it at all. So it's kind of nice to
yeah.
keep it
But do you
preserved.
think people looking for information about the original Worms from 1995 now, do you think there's anybody born after 1995 who actually does that? Or is it
Um,
just us old guys
I think
still looking at that?
it's probably mainly us old guys,
Yeah.
but I think you'd be surprised. I think there's probably a fair few young people interested in the history of things. I mean, it's still a current franchise, and it's got a long
Mm,
running history,
mm,
and also I think people find it interesting learning about kind of the ethos of the gaming industry in the 90s, because it was such a different beast to how it is
mm,
now. And it's
mm,
kind of quite romantic, really, how it was in the 90s, because there's a lot more freedom and creativity there
mm.
than now. It's very much, the board of directors want their
Yeah, yeah.
profit and da da da.
It's
So,
really corporate now. Yeah.
yeah, which is a
I
shame.
do. I do have my personal YouTube channel, and on that channel, I just put up all the Worms music tracks with just like a still picture of the game cover. And there's a lot of comments on there. There's a lot of comments from people just wanting to say thanks, or I found this old music. I can't believe I haven't heard this for 30 years, and now it's so great to hear it again. And a lot of those people writing those comments on those videos, I think we're too young to be on social media or to be on the internet even, or even to send a note to somebody or anything like that. But
Yeah.
now they're 35 or 40 years old, right? And they finally able to express kind of gratitude, or just finding other people who remember those old games. And it's nice. I have to say it's quite nice. Though I don't answer all the comments,
Mm.
I can see them. Yeah.
Well, when this eventually goes up, when I've put it all together, I'll link to your to your YouTube.
Yeah, sure.
Is there anything else you want to plug, or I can link to? Anything else you've got going on?
I make my living now running like a stock music library. Like just like for stock photos, but with music. And my company has a lot of music available to license for use in games, videos, casual media, social media, films, TV programs, and that kind of stuff. And that's what I've been doing basically since I left Team 17 in
Mm.
2005. So even that's been going for almost 20 years now.
Amazing.
Time flies.
Mm.
So no, I don't necessarily have to plug anything. Yeah, I don't see the relevance other than I just mentioned me on my website name.
Okay, and what's the stock music site called?
It's called shockwave-sound.com. Yeah,
Shockwavepartnersound.com.
no,
Okay,
obviously.
well, I'll make sure to link to that
I
too.
have also have a site for my personal music projects, which is linmusic.com.
I was going to ask you actually, is is it Bjørn Lynne in is that how you say it, or is it
Lynne, that's
Lynne?
correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
okay.
Norwegian we would say the
Yeah.
at the end
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Well, I
well
mean,
done.
yeah, I prefer to say it if it's a Norwegian name, I prefer to say it in Norwegian way, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
well
I
done.
know what
Well done.
English people are like, though, so you know they kind of have a
uh,
habit of anglicizing everything, don't they? So
yeah, well, yeah, so I guess we do the same here. We do the same here.
yeah, sure,
So, yeah,
yeah, cool. Well,
exactly.
yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, that roughly covers everything I wanted to ask, and I really appreciate your time.
No worries.
Enjoy the weather.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
no worries. Pleasure. Nice to see you.
You too. Take care.
Cheers. Bye
Cheers.
bye.